Ba-da, 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 ba-ba. What's up? Well, today's the day. How's everyone doing? How are the people? Huh? How are the people? I ask. Oh, all right. So today we're gonna talk about a different subject. Might be a little bit harder for some folks. Depends. Oh, what's up, Cody? Thanks for sticking around. I'm going to talk about a bit of a different subject in the sense that it's going to dig a little deeper, I think, in kind of the how and the why of some things. I'm hoping it's something that, I've struggled a lot. Hey, good morning, Shimon. Ooh, I like the little first beside your name, Shimon. It's pretty fancy. It's going to dig into a little bit about kind of why we do and don't do certain things. So fear is going to be a pretty fun topic. Hopefully we can get some neat things going chatter-wise. And, yeah. So how's everyone's weekend? What did everyone do? It was actually kind of decent here in Michigan. Well, at least in my neck of town. It was, I don't know, what was it? It was, yeah, pretty decent.
Everything's great.
Everything is awesome. Thanks. Welcome back, Cody. Appreciate you hanging out. I know I'm always kind of excited internally. I jump for joy a little bit every time I see a resub because it kind of lets me know you guys care a lot about the kids that we serve and that for heck's sakes you care. I like it. Love it. Thank you. And I think today's subject as well is very relevant to the kids that we serve, in the sense that the vast majority of our kids are where they are because they're battling with fear. You know, they don't know how else to respond to something, so they either run away or they do things out of a kind of a fight or flight type of response. But is like the D&D thing, Jamode, a huge Saturday, Sunday thing for you, or Saturday thing for you, actually? Hail. Oh my gosh, you guys had hail? Oh, first 2 Saturdays of the month. Oh, nice. Cody, you worked? You work every weekend? What did I do this weekend? I wrenched on my Jeep. You work every day. I'm sorry. I guess given kind of your job, I guess that kind of makes sense that you're... Yeah. Yeah, I spent the weekend, I went soccer on Saturday, watched my son play the best game of his life. Oh my gosh. Kid looked amazing. I was so happy to watch him play at that level. It was just fun to watch him. I love watching aggressive soccer. Yeah, Theron, we got to start recording his games. I'd love to just live stream those bad boys because sometimes they're just phenomenal. They're so fun. He's such a good player. Had a couple of good breakaways and was just making amazing runs. Just very smart play. Was exciting to watch. Anyways, enough of my being overexcited for my son. Yeah, I did that Saturday. Went out for dinner. Did the whole date night thing with my wife. I guess that was Sunday, the date night thing. And then, what else? Sat and watched hockey Saturday. That'll be my usual Saturday thing, Saturday night. Hockey night in Canada, the whole sit with the rest of, the Great White North and watch the Maple Leafs lose horribly as usual. And whenever Canadian team is playing the late game. Yeah, and then Sunday church as usual. And fixed all the problems on my Jeep. I love it. So get this. I had an airbag light on my dash. My horn stopped working. And my cruise controls never worked on my Jeep. And I looked forever to figure out what the problem is. I thought it was fuses. I thought maybe the horn switch had gone. And then there's a whole bunch of reasons why the airbag light would come on. And I got to monkeying about and figuring different stuff out. And lo and behold, it was my steering wheel clock spring. Because you all know what a clock spring is. I figured I'd tell you about it. But yeah, that was... got that swapped out. My airbag light went off right away. Horn worked immediately. Love it. Because, got to use the horn once in a while here in the old Greater Jackson area. And my cruise control still wouldn't work. So I got to looking on the interwebs again. And good old American way of fixing things. Some guy in a Jeep forum said, hey, if you just take that sucker out for your cruise control on-off and you rap on it a few times with the back of the old wrench there, you don't even got to turn the thing, just smack on it. The starts to work again. And guess what happened? That started to work again. It was whoop, the button pushed, the light turned on, got up to 45 miles an hour, hit the old beep on, locked the cruise control in, and started to cruise on Sunday after church. Went for ice cream, and yeah, it's pretty nice. I was pretty happy. So you had the same issue, a clock spring? Honestly? Cody? Yeah, wow. That's pretty wicked. Because, I mean, they don't go a lot, but what kind of car do you drive? Yeah. Yeah, that's the old clock spring. That'll get you. It's crazy. Did you change it yourself, or you had somebody do it? Because usually the only hard part of it is pulling the steering wheel off, right? On Acura, yeah. Toyota's got a problem with that too. You had someone do it. Because those little clock springs, those suckers are expensive. Yeah, give me a sec. I got to do something. So I've installed a computer for the in studio guest seat over there, so that our guests can watch chat themselves. Because before they would basically rely on me to say what you guys were saying and whatnot. So I've installed a brand new PC over there, so that chat can kind of keep track, and they can even interact. They're going to be in the old Ripped Immersed Twitch account. And get them so they can actually interact with you guys. So that'll be fun when I have a guest. Hopefully next week I'm going to have somebody back in here. Like I said, I've got a few people lined up, but sometimes schedules are a problem. Life gets in the way. So fear. What is fear? I mean, how do we even begin the topic of fear? Like, Cody, you got any fears? What are you afraid of besides working on a car and changing clock springs? Thank you, Best Buy. I used to have a ton of fears. You have a few? What's your biggest... What did you say your... no worries, I don't mind caps. I'm afraid of caps. Triggered. What would you say your biggest fear is, though? Because there's tons out there, right, that people claim as kind of like the top 10. So there's like the fear of loneliness, disappointment, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that is very specific to you, right? Fear of dying is actually number 2 worldwide. And it's funny, you've actually combined 1 and 2 together, because fear of loneliness and fear of death are the top 2 reasons, or top 2 things people fear. Fear of being alone, number 1. Fear of death, number 2. You're afraid of cockroaches. Fear of death, yeah, that's losing a child. Same. I don't know how I'd respond to that whole fear of losing a child thing. I think I'd be pretty devastated. My my grandmother lost a child when she was 5 years old, 4.5. Remember, that was even in her 80s, that was still a hard thing for her to talk about. Yeah. That whole fear of death thing, that was my big one. I would literally lie awake at night and not freak out, but just worry about that kind of stuff, you know? So, I mean, one of the biggest things is, Nappy, all right. Thanks, Snappy. You're a decent dude, man. Welcome to the stream. Mice and frogs. You're afraid of mice and frogs? Nappy comes in with the rockin' 250 bits like a boss. Oh, with the founder's badge. Ooh, fancy. I mean, that's pretty sexy. I'm not going to lie. Jamode's got one of those bad boys, too. Your youngest is... Oh, Jamode. You know what's best about the youngest when they puke is when you get it between your toes, when you don't realize they puked on the carpet when you go beside their bed at night, and you go in and check on them, and they puked, and you step in it, and it goes right between your toes. Oh, I love that feeling. That's so good. Just the best thing ever. Yeah, there's definitely a bug going around. We had a group at our house last night, and their little guy, he's only 6 months old, was just coming out of it. He had a bit of a cough and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, the family was going through this round robin of this illness. Uh-huh. Now that you're scared. Yeah, so fear is, so the weird thing about fear, stepping up, is that it's something that's hardwired into us, right? So it's not like fear is ever going to go away. Fear is something that we've always got. We've always got this thing that is like a trigger in us when we... Well, and that's what fear is, right? Fear is your... Think of every scenario you ever get in, Nappy, and ask yourself, why am I afraid right now? The lights are off. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid of what I don't see in that room. What I'm going to kick with my foot. Who's going to jump scare me when I walk in there and grab my shoulder? In regards to heights, you're afraid of, it's not the falling you're necessarily afraid of. It's probably the stopping you're afraid of. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what to expect. Is it really going to hurt that much? And part of, being afraid of heights is you're probably, what you're actually afraid of is a fear of death, right? Because heights usually mean I'm not going to, have much control on the way down. Unless you've got, some sort of a parachute. So if you equate everything to fear as a fear of the unknown, how about public speaking? Who here loves to public speak? Streaming, I don't really call public streaming. I don't really call streaming public speaking. But yeah, it's definitely, Cody, it's definitely hardwired into us. It's something that I would definitely say is an instinct of the human, that old fight or flight mechanism that's plugged into our old brain plugs there, that ensures that we survive, right? So you see the big furry thing with the sharp teeth and claws? Yeah, it's a healthy thing to be afraid of that thing, because it's going to bite your face off, It's going to eat your youngins. So you kind of stay away from the thing that growls really loud and eats the elephants. Right? So the problem is there's healthy fear, and then there's this irrational fear that a lot of us have, myself included, of certain things. Like people who see snakes and they literally freeze. They can't do anything, or they hyperventilate, or some people pass out even, right? Fears can be the exact opposite of what the fight or flight mechanism was there for. So fear originally was to keep you safe. But when you have an unhealthy fear, it actually makes you vulnerable. Now think about this for a second. If you are so afraid that you can't respond, or that you over-respond, you end up putting yourself in a vulnerable spot. So there is a fear, a healthy fear of something, but that the healthy fear, this is the trigger, this is the key. A healthy fears can be overcome. I think, I really don't like public speaking. I just don't know what I'm going to say, or I'm afraid of whatever. And I'll talk about public speaking in a second. I'll use that as a context for a lot of different stuff today. But when you are over afraid, or when you make it so that you're almost, frozen in the moment, it actually stops you from doing anything. Talking. Some people literally won't even be able to say their name, get up in front of a group and say their name. There are people that will pass out. Yeah, it can be terrifying for some people. So over the years, because I do a ton, I'm doing a presentation today to a couple hundred people at 1:30. What are the main reasons why people don't like public speaking? And it's actually interesting because it'll be things that you can relate to other things. So why do you guys think people hate public speaking? Because I'll use today as an example. I got emailed, a month and a half ago to do this presentation. And it's a funders forum. It's basically some people who give to nonprofits. So there are people there that could help Rise Above financially. There are people there that I'm going to know. There's people there that I don't know. Hey, Cathcart, what's going on? I think vulnerability is a big part of this answer. I think you're exactly right, Cathcart. So you've got an opportunity when you stand in front of 150 people, say, and you've been invited to talk about, say, in NAPI, I'm going to tie that in. You've been asked to speak about, say, your nonprofit, in my case. What's likely to happen when you're speaking? People can raise their hand and say, hey, I have a question for you. Or as Cody, I think you touched on this a little bit earlier. I mean, it's this idea of you want to appear a certain way. You don't want to let people down. So when you're talking, you're thinking, I don't want to say anything stupid. I don't want to say anything that's going to offend anybody. I think those are probably the biggest areas where people are going to be like, I'm not sure I want to do public speaking. And it's basically the fear of the unknown. It's vulnerability. And that's what the fear of unknown really is this idea of, I don't know what to expect when I get up there. I don't know what these people are going to ask me. And I don't want to lose my status in some way. That's probably the biggest reason why people are deathly afraid of public speaking. And for me, although I do talk a lot, I'm not necessarily afraid of public speaking. I was actually afraid of public speaking. How did I overcome it? I overcame it much the same way I overcame a lot of my fears. One, by just forcing myself to do it. Again, having a healthy fear is something that you can overcome. The irrational fears is the thing that you need help with. So having a healthy fear of public speaking, I actually did two things. First, I became aware of the fact that I was afraid. I recognized I'm afraid of this. This makes me uncomfortable. And then I started to then work through the what ifs of public speaking. Okay, if I get up there and somebody asks me a question. So what if somebody asks me a question? Then what? I get up there and somebody that I don't know is there. What if that person who I want to impress is there? Then what? Those sorts of things. And then I started to form kind of solutions to that stuff. The other thing that you can do, and a lot of people do this well, is this kind of stuff. Distract yourself. Find something else to give your mind a chance to focus on. Give yourself a squishy, or one of these fidget doohickeys. I keep all this stuff around in my office. I mean, I don't use it on stream because, look, click, click, click. You guys would go crazy if you heard that clicking. So I tend to use this kind of stuff. And I just have it in my hand underneath, or, You'll often see my chair wiggle because I'm bouncing. That's my distraction. And the other thing when it comes to public speaking is be realistic. You got to remember 9 times out of 10, if you're public speaking publicly, it's because you were invited. Somebody liked you enough already in what you've already said to say, hey, I want you to come and share this with a bunch of people. You play with your hair and that, yeah. And again, that's fine as long as it's not a distraction to others, right? So this idea of being realistic also goes along with this idea of stop trying to be a perfectionist. You're coming to talk. You're not coming to show people how to, build a nuclear bomb, at least, or something, some device that has to be absolutely precise. And they're coming because they want to hear from you about a given subject, not necessarily to cure cancer. Although that'd be great if you could do that. So we put all this really bizarre, weird pressure on ourselves to perform when really people just want us. Yeah, absolutely. Tell me how you overcame your fear of public speaking. Because that's really what it comes down to. We gotta figure out how to overcome these fears, right? So while you do some typing there, one of the things that's probably really hard we'll stick with public speaking just a second longer. One of the hardest things that people have when it comes to public speaking is this idea of what happens if they ask me a question? What happens if I get up there and the smartest guy in the room says, hey, Neil, but what about this? Have you ever thought about doing it this way? I guess the irrational part of that, the kind of unwarranted fear in that situation is the thought that you have to answer that question, or the thought that you have to articulate some form of a logical response to what that person is saying. And it's that thought that scares the dickens out of us. And for me, 90% of overcoming my fear of public speaking was figuring out the fact that, wait a second, I don't need to answer your question. I don't need to respond to your comment. I can defer. Once I realized that I don't have to answer it in front of 150 people, I was good. I literally was able to breathe because I realized, hey, you ask me a hard question or a question I don't know the answer to, or a question that could potentially make me look kind of silly if I tried to answer it because I really don't have a clue what you're asking me. Once I realized I can just say, hey, you know what, sir, that's a great question. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to it. I can be honest and say, I'll get back to you. Let's get together after this presentation and have a chat, right? Or just move on. So Nappy, I had a high school English teacher who made us do 4 speeches a semester, one on a topic of our choice, one large book report, short story report, and a poetry, recital. Had it for 2 years. And he would stand at the back of the room and correct us. So for me, he said, Tom, you weeble and you wobble, but you don't fall down because I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that, but that's actually kind of funny. Yep, no problem, Cath Cow. Yeah, Cody, and I would agree with that, this idea of humbling yourself, but you don't have to humble yourself in front of the group. It's okay, even if you know the answer, but know that it could be controversial, that it could be not what this crowd wants to hear or needs to hear. You can defer. You can just say, I'm not what I can prepare to speak about today. My time's a little tight. I've got a set thing, but let's get together afterwards and have that conversation. Or, hey, you mind if I get back to you? I'll send you a quick email. Let's exchange details and we'll kind of get back to that. But to Nappy, what you're saying is so depending on who your English teacher is and what the goal of his class was, and hopefully his syllabus outlined that, because I took a public speaking class in college as part of my degree. And I had a very critical teacher. She was very hard, and she would do very similar. And what she would do, she actually gave the class out little clickers. And so there was 25 people in this class, and every time you said a certain word, like if you said you got this like clicker thing. They would click like crazy. So you'd say in the middle of your thought. You have this really thought out, you've memorized whatever, and suddenly you say and you get all these 25 clicks going off in the class, and you're like, and then you got to recognize you said and then B, you've got to try and remember where you were and get back on track, right? Now, after the class would vote on the top speakers, and that's I sat in for 2 years. So, nice. And it would, because again, the idea with the clickers is kind of what he would do with the correction at the back of the class. It keeps you on your toes. It makes you think about your presence, and that's part of the first kind of the thing of controlling your fear, is being aware of your thoughts. Public speaking is hard. You if you're going to be a public speaker, when you get up to speak publicly, you better be an expert in your subject, or you better know it well. Because if you don't, you're going to get that question, and if you don't know how to even respond to the question, whether you don't want to answer it or whether you want to defer, if you're not confident in your subject, you're not going to be confident in your rebuttal. So, yeah, with my public speaking class, I actually won top speaker for the year at the university because of that class. So it was a great experience for me as well. Although I was already confident in public speaking, it really upped my game, because by that point I'd already done some pretty big presentations to 1,000 people or more. But so speaking in front of a class of 25 or a school of a couple hundred was not difficult for me. But yeah, I think the other thing that people don't understand is the importance of sleep when it comes to public speaking. If you are tired or are not sleeping well, you are going to have a hard time focusing while you're speaking. You're just going to struggle in getting your thoughts together, articulating your words, and especially you're going to have a hard time articulating responses to people, because you got to think on your toes when people kind of get to you, especially if they're critical. And you've got to be able to kind of corner that beast a little bit and take control of the room back. Because one of the biggest fears, take Rise Above, for example. I would say probably the biggest fear for our teachers is loss of control in the room, because they public speak all day long to the students that they have in the room. That's what teachers do, right? And most teachers have a mastery, a control of the room, and indeed their subject. Yeah, tickle in my throat. So, I mean, it's imperative that, when you're having a bad day or when you haven't slept well, that you're really confident or competent in what it is that you're doing. Cody, what are you saying? There's a sense of humility in it too? Yeah. This song starred. Oh. You know what? As confident as I am in public speaking, I don't think I could ever do acting. Yeah, and you know what? I have a friend of mine who is actually big into acting, and what you said about laughing it off is actually the thing that everyone says to do. They say 99% of audiences are going to be extremely forgiving if you're forgiving. So if you're not hard on yourself, they're not going to be hard on you. If you do exactly that, if you laugh it off, or if you just pick up and get going again, and don't over respond, your audience isn't going to over respond. Yeah, and but after the musical, everyone came and told you he recovered well, and not a big deal. And that's exactly what he was saying too. As long as you don't don't make it a big deal, they're not going to make it a big deal. It's the same thing with public speaking. Again, when you talk about humility, I also think of it, humility piece, as admitting when you've made a mistake. So if you're up there and you're talking and you misspeak, you say something that you didn't intend to say, or that you recognize after you said it was wrong, or whatnot. The first thing that I do is say, "Yo, ooh, that was wrong. Correction." Let's get back on track for a second because I steered off course for a second. And for me, that's the whole idea of being realistic. I don't think anybody anticipates that you're up there being inhuman and perfect. Although a lot of people do look at teachers or people that are public speaking as kind of superhuman in some way, in that they have infinite wisdom. And that's why a lot of students in university don't push back on their professors. I'm not that guy. I always push back because I realize there are differences to every theory. But I mean, the idea there, for some people is they take everything as absolute truth. So, anyways, I've noticed though that the older I get, I'm becoming more socially anxious. Is that normal? Maybe because I'm not surrounded by as many people as you were in school. Well, there could be a couple of reasons for that, Cody. Becoming socially anxious can be the exact opposite of what you're saying, because you're not surrounded by people as much in school. You've lost the ability to kind of, it's not like riding a bike where once you do it once, you're always good with it. And it also might be because you've shifted gears. You've switched subjects in life. You went from being a student to being, oh, okay. Yeah, I will. Actually, I got to give you that power as well. So if you find stuff like that, you can do it. But Cody, it could just be that you've shifted gears as well, and so you're still trying to figure it out. So you think, I can't figure it out. Well, it's because you haven't figured it out yet. That's what's making you anxious, right? It really comes down to this idea that a lot of people get themselves in situations where they're that overthinking part. People are not as mean as we think they are. It's just one of those things where because again, I don't know your exact age, so I don't want to make assumptions, right? But typically when you get into our certain point of our lives, late 30s, early 40s, we're at a pretty critical point where we've got to make some pretty final decisions for what the next half of our life is going to look like. And so that makes a lot of people anxious. And that's why we go through these things called midlife crisis around our 40s and 50s. It's because we're trying to figure out what's about to happen. We're trying to establish where we're going, what that's going to look like, how financially set I'm going to be. Is my career what it's going to be, or am I looking to change that one more time? And then obviously finances. And I mean, for me, at 38, I had a pretty major shift in my life. So I went through a very anxious, very stressed out time where, fear was, I had to push hard to get through it. I had to become very aware of my thoughts. And I think that's, for you, Cody, I think the next part of that part for you is to actually sit and pay attention to when you become anxious. What are you actually being afraid of in that moment? Because again, it's a hardwired response to something. So is it someone or something? Is it a scenario or a situation that you're in? Right? So is it when you're driving into work? Is it when you're at work? Is it when you're around certain people or certain environments? For some people, it's, any number of those things. And when you sit and kind of break that stuff down, then you can start kind of beating the devil out of it and realizing that you are good enough. Because that's what it comes down to. Is people think they're not good enough. I'm not good enough to talk to this guy or girl because I think they're smarter than me. doesn't, the reality is there is that it really doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. So, you don't think you overthink, but I definitely try to understand as much as I can. It's just what you got to do, right? I'm pretty strong confidence, but I find myself trying to understand how other people view me. And I think that's probably where your anxiousness is coming from, is, again, this idea of letting other people's thoughts of you control. Be you. One of the things that I try and do for myself is I try and remind my fear that I'm in control. Not the people in the room, not my fear, right? Which is, my fear is the people in the room. I got up this morning, I put my pants on just like everybody else, and I put them on the way I wanted to put them on. I'm not worried about how I look. I'm not worried about the clothes. My wife always corrects things not matching for me. That's why, I keep her around. But the idea there is, if you have this deep desire to please everybody else, you're always going to have a nagging fear. So you've got to, that part of that is taking control of it. Yeah, and work is hard, because I'm a very social person. So I'm one of those people as well, that when people walk in the building, they don't say good morning because they literally have to walk past my office to get to their offices. So if they don't say good morning to me, my first thought is, oh, they must not like me. And that might be a reality, that they don't like me. But so again, it's that idea of for me, this is for me. I'm oversimplifying, Cody, so bear with me. For me, it's just I'm stopping being fearful. I'm just decided in my mind I'm okay with if everyone doesn't like me. If some people decide to not hang out in the chat the whole stream, yeah, I'm okay with that. And it's that is a strong issue with me. That is something I really wrestle with, this idea of disappointing others. And I think that's something that, we could even figure out together, is this idea of how do we overcome this fear of disappointing. Because for me, it turns into this thing where suddenly I'm doing like 9 things more than I should be doing, because I'm afraid of saying no, because I think I'm going to disappoint people. I'm on more boards, more committees, more teams than I should be, because someone that I really like or really respect, or someone that I value relationally, comes to me and says, "Oh, Neil, hey, I think you're awesome. I really like to have you come onto this particular committee." And because I don't want to disappoint that person, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do that. And it's like, crap, I just added 2 more hours that I don't have to my life, and that might be part of it. I mean, it might be, for me, that's definitely part of the equation. I think one of the questions we need to kind of start with, though, in the conversation is, how do we know that we're being fearful? Different question. Is there a difference between being fearful and being afraid? I would take one word off of that, Cody. The respect that we have for other people, the sacrifice we're making. I don't think we're sacrificing self-respect. I think we're sacrificing self. If that makes any sense. I don't know that we're necessarily sacrificing our self-respect in that situation. So fearful and afraid. So I kind of separate the two, fearful and afraid. Fearful to me is this idea of I understand what I'm up against, and I'm going to approach it safely. Being afraid of something is where I'm not even going to enter the room. I'm not even going to go in the room because I just don't want to even see that thing. Afraid is I'm running the other direction. Being fearful is I know what it is and I'm willing to look at it at least. Being fearful is understanding the consequences. Being afraid is avoiding it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yep. Yeah, that is a great way of saying it. Because I think a lot of people have fears where they're going into a certain scenario, and they're willing to at least tackle it. So take your clock spring on your car. I bet you if it came right down to it and you had no option, you'd probably Google the whole or YouTube the whole, how do I remove the clock spring from my Acura? And you go, okay, I can figure this sucker out. You know, it's going to suck, but I can probably give it a go. You know, I'd rather not, but afraid means I ain't touching that thing because I'm going to wreck my car. I cannot do that is typically the response in that situation. And because I don't believe in myself, I am going to the other way. And that's public speaking. That's the big phobia there. The whole thing with being afraid of spiders, being afraid of intimacy. It's just, I'm not good enough to do that thing. So for me, let's talk about fear for a second. And I'm going to relate this to my faith journey a little bit. So bear with me. When I came to faith, I had two huge fears at coming to faith. When I came to faith, I was afraid of death, like afraid of death, and afraid of love. I didn't think that I could be loved. I didn't think I was worthy, good enough to be loved. And the whole death thing was because it was, again, the fear of the unknown. I didn't know what was on the other side of that. So what faith did for me is it gave me the answer to, hey, this is what's on the other side. And it also, for me, answered the, am I good enough to be loved question. Well, yes, of course I am. You know? And again, you can get into the whole faith conversation of being created in the image of God and, you know, being loved just there. But then my whole faith journey in general just demonstrated to me the people around me that already love me. And the fact that I was easily lovable. Because that was the fear. I grew up in a situation where I didn't think anyone could love me because I was a bad kid. I was always in trouble. I was always, you know, disappointing, Cody, as you said earlier. You know, the thought in my mind was, I'm just always going to disappoint you, so I'm not even going to try. It's hard sometimes to overcome that, but for me, my faith journey just nailed those suckers to the wall. It was a huge escape for me. So a lot of people get over fears through faith. I can't tell you how many. I mean, I'm in the Christian world, but I can't really speak to other faiths a whole lot. But from a Christian standpoint, how many believers, that people that I've seen come into the Christian faith that have been kind of through that whole journey, that have overcome monstrous fears. I mean, monstrous fears. I mean, totally released from just debilitating fears that just, kept people from doing basic things of life. So historically, people, humans, Homo sapiens, have feared immediate dangers. So back before electronics, back before mass production of anything, the mechanical age, kind of dark ages back, humanity feared the immediate. They didn't necessarily fear a year from now. They didn't fear, they had an answer to the whole death question because there was a bajillion different gods, and, think of Greece and Rome, and they had a god for everything, right? So they didn't fear necessarily tomorrow. They feared today. They feared that the volcano that was behind them was about to erupt, right? They feared the hungry predator, like I talked about earlier. When you're out in the plains farming your field and, suddenly there's a cougar on your back, hauling away your kids or something. The idea there is the fear was simpler. You could see it because it was right there and it was immediate. Society has changed that a little bit in the sense that our fears today the common fears today are less of the immediate and more of the, as Cody, as what you're talking about, this idea of the impressions that I'm making to others, the self-worth type things. And society now and more has become this, almost hyper-focused on image. Just watch any commercial. 99% of what's on TV and on computers and stuff is all image-based. This idea of the perfect whatever. There are whole industries centered around this. Right? And it's only been exacerbated the last 20 years, 25 years because of the internet. We all have these almost, I remember early chat rooms especially, I'm seeing it less and less now, but still to some degree, particularly the younger kids. Building you had this persona that you had to build in chat rooms and all that stuff. You had to, even now that I've never used a dating site, and thank God, because I would have to just tell the truth of who I am, and I don't know that I could build a fake me. And then what do you do when you actually have to meet the person? I couldn't imagine starting over. Yeah, no problem, Shimon. I couldn't imagine starting over dating, going back to high school. I'm so thankful that Veronica, my lovely wife, kind of cornered me so early in my life so that I didn't have to worry about all that. Yeah, and that, I think, Cody, that's the big thing. So when you talk about fears, and irrational fears, and people who are legitimately afraid, who run from social things, it's because they've built this fake persona. And suddenly, as you go into social situations, and maybe, Cody, this might be part of your question from earlier, and I'm not saying you've built a fake persona, but there's this almost cultural anticipation of something phenomenal that we have to produce now, because you can build this perfect thing on the internet of who you are, and then we get into, like, I'm going to do this presentation today. People look on the internet and they read about Rise Above and they hear all the great stories and stuff, and I'm going to get there and I'm going to tell them the reality. Not only am I going to tell them the reality, they're going to see me the reality, not the cool picture of me that comes off the internet. The beard's a little grown out. I'm looking a little scruffier than I did in the picture. I might not be looking as clean cut. My hair might be, I'm not going to be that perfect Neil that I was the day that I had the picture taken on the interwebs. And I think that managing our fears today, especially today, has just become really confusing. So you had the obvious danger back in early man, when you had, okay, the lion's going to come bite your face off. The hyena's going to come drag your kids away. The volcano's going to blow up, right? The crops that I planted aren't going to grow. My family's going to starve, right? Because we didn't catch any fish today, or I didn't shoot a deer out. There's the immediate. And so, but now, because we don't have a clear and obvious danger anymore, it's really muddied the water. So fear tends to overtake does that make sense? Fear is it's overtaking who we can be, because we're no longer focused on the obvious, simple things in front of us. So now add to that trauma. So we've talked about ACE scores, adverse childhood effects, and things of that nature. When you add in there things like severe trauma, abuses, sexual abuse, drug abuse, I mean, not saying formal therapy is always needed, but we need to find a way to gradually expose ourselves back into this stuff, because the more we retreat, the harder it gets, you know? I feel like society expects me to be so much more than I am, or fit in their mold, and that's exactly the interwebs. That's especially since Cody, as you said earlier, Twitch. That's your thing. That's your place. That's your go-to, right? So, and that's exactly the interwebs that expects this kind of thing, put you in their mold. It's like trying to fill out too many shoes at once. Everyone is lost, especially in my generation. Cody, do you mind if I ask how old you are? Is that a bad thing? I know I'm not supposed to ask a lady how old they are, but yeah, and I think that's part of it. This idea of no one wants to be singled out anymore. Oh, so you're still young. You're pretty young. Yeah, you're still very young. So so you've never grown up without the internet. You've always had the internet. Everything you've done has always been most of your communication with your friends, cell phones. You've had that your whole life. You've had the internet your whole life. You know, I'm going to guess most of your school career has been the use of computers, particularly your high school and your middle school and up, for sure. Whereas for me, literally, it was my senior year of high school, we got DOS-based computers. Was the first time I saw a computer. And I mean DOS, just very basic programming. It wasn't like you had Microsoft Word or anything like that. We were still taking typing classes on old traditional typewriters when I was, and I'm not that old. Like, I'm only 45. Landlines and passing notes. Yeah. I mean, that's what it was for me. It was, you were talking to class, passing notes, and you'd sit on the phone all night with your friends when you got home, or until mom kicked you off. So it's different now, because take abuse, for example, as a frame of what we're talking about, that why we're the shift in fears. So abuse back in the day was Uncle Tim came to your house and he would, do things he wasn't supposed to do, or, dad was an alcoholic and you dealt with that in the house and in that type of thing. Now, because of the interwebs, abuse has taken on a whole different realm of abuse. And so when we talk about fear, bullying, and those sorts of things, it's just a different world. Fear is very impersonal now. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not a personal attack. I'm saying it's impersonal. So when I was a kid, when an attack happened, the kid in the hallway came up and knocked the books out of my hand. That still happens today. But what's more likely to happen today is Johnny goes on his phone and says about Timmy, the kid in the hallway whose books he usually knocks out, that Timmy's a loser and he stinks. And sends it out to the whole school. Or posts it on Snapchat. I was going to say Facebook, but Facebook's an old-timer thing now. Or whatever the latest craze in kids' social media is. Right? So it's changed. I use Facebook still, so do I. But it's changed. So the reality is the vast majority of the kids that we get here at Rise Above are not here because of that immediacy thing. They're all here because of a fear. So I'm going to talk about that next. But the fear translates to some form of internet abuse. where they are posting something, some form of a response on the interwebs that's getting them in trouble. I would say 50+% of the kids that currently come into Rise Above, and we're full. I have a waiting list right now for students in Rise Above. So all your bits, resubs, and donos, they're going to good use. We got a lot of little munchkins coming in here right now that are acting out, that need a lot of helps. Yeah, their Instagram and TikTok are, man, destructive. So one of the things that we get here, so our way of controlling that fear right off the hop and calming everybody down, and people say to us, it literally, toxic. I had a huge funder come just randomly show up here on Friday. He brought a guest, and he's been one of our funders right from day one. Great guy, super, like really easygoing. I can be real with this guy. I don't have to fake anything with him. I kind of say he's one of the best guys that I know for just chatting. And one of the things that came up while we were touring is, how do we deal with the whole cell phone thing? Because cell phones are toxic. They cause so much drama in schools and they're a huge distraction. And I said, well, how we deal with it is we take them away. Students aren't allowed to have cell phones in class. I'm moving my camera if you're wondering why I'm moving around. They literally, each student has a pouch in the front office. When they walk in the front of the building, they literally have to take their cell phone out of their pocket and stick it in their little pouch. There are no cell phones allowed in this building. Only staff are permitted to have cell phones. We force them to stop communicating with their fingers and force them to start communicating with their mouth. If somebody who's on your phone needs to get a hold of you, they can call the front office. We'll let you know what they have to say. Otherwise, it can wait. But you're right, Cody. The world over, everybody has lost the ability to communicate effectively. And that's why you've got people who fights start over nothing now. Nobody knows how to have a civil discussion about basic things where it doesn't self-destruct and result. That's why politics is disintegrated in the United States, because people just don't know how to communicate beyond 128 characters or whatever the number is now on Twitter. So managing fears in a world that communicates through their fingers. My generation, you communicate through your finger by shooting each other the finger. That was how you used your fingers to communicate. Nowadays, phew. And I'm guilty. I'm a huge tech guy. I love tech. I love computers. I get my kids are all in it. They got their iPhones. They got their computers in their rooms. And you got to monitor that stuff. You got to make sure that you're checking histories and you're making sure kids aren't deleting stuff. And that's why it's good to have the special programs on kids' computers and stuff, so you can know what's going on. We have a program here at Rise Above called Land School. I wonder if I got it on this computer. No, I don't. I was going to say I could probably pull it up and show you how it works. But no, I don't have it on this computer, sadly. Too bad. When you have a world that can't sit down and negotiate anymore, well, they are, and that's the political climate. So, and that's not just the U.S. That's everywhere. Canada right now is bad. Like, you can't talk. Even good friends, you got to be careful what you're talking about, because it's just gonna. Well, they're called keyboard warriors, right? This idea of people gain all kind of confidence when suddenly they have the old clickety-clack in front of them and they can type out whatever their heart desires that day because there's no consequences. Or they think there's no consequences. And that's why you have all these, massive, protests and stuff where people really don't even know what they're talking about. They just read a forum page and suddenly they're an expert. Because again, nobody does their research anymore. They've lost the ability to articulate and to research. Well, let's talk about the whole entitlement thing, because once you're entitled, understand this. Once you're entitled, whoever the entitled person is, at that point, you've negated everybody else. And so you're standing alone on a pedestal. As soon as you're standing alone on the pedestal, you're playing king of the castle, right? So you're always on the defense. As soon as you're entitled and you're standing on that little stump, you think of Karate Kid when he's doing the kicks and he's standing at the beach and he's stepping on the stump and he's doing the kick thing. That's what an entitled person is doing. And they're just waiting for someone to come and try and push you off. The moment you put yourself, it's actually kind of a decent movie. That and Princess Bride are probably right up there for me. And because you live in a world where you're always anticipating somebody trying to push you off the top, you're always playing defense in your words, in your actions. And because you're in that mode, guess what you always are? You're afraid. You're always looking over your shoulder because you're thinking, who's coming? Who's coming to push me off? It's tragic. Entitlement is one of the biggest toxic tragedies of our culture today, is this entitlement culture that we have, where everybody, because you're special, you get to have what you want. You can be anything you want. And that's true, you can. But there are parameters. Every one of these kids that comes into Rise Above, let me back up. A lot of the kids that come into Rise Above are entitled little brats. And I say that to their face. It's true. They come in thinking, there's nothing you can offer me that I don't already have figured out. I've got it all. And whatever I don't have, you have to give it to me. Because society says you have to give it to me. I'm entitled to it. Well, yeah, but you have to work for it. Grades don't come just because I give them to you. You have to earn them. And that's one of the lessons that we teach students early on in attendance, is this idea of your seat is valuable and it is vulnerable. If you don't attend to that seat, i.e. show up every day, you're likely to lose it. It's not something you are entitled to. You need to maintain it. And it's a shock to some of these guys, because they see the public school system as an entitlement, which it is. Everyone's entitled to an education. But when they abuse it, they lose that entitlement. And so when they come to Rise Above, they think they can just carry that forward, and that's not what we are. But now the question is, who is entitled? Because people naturally look for a leader or someone who to protect them. So human nature is natural defense to avoid blame. Yeah, so path of least resistance is what you're talking about, right? And the whole leadership thing, so nobody needs to be entitled. Again, this idea of, so respect is not earned. Respect is given ad hoc at the beginning. Everyone starts with respect, and then you lose it over time. I'm flipping a paradigm, because everyone says respect, you got to earn my respect. That's not correct. My opinion, it's not correct. So when we talk about a leader is not in the position they're in because they're entitled to it. So because your last name is, I don't know, what's a famous politician last name? Clinton. Trump, yeah. If just because your name is Trump doesn't mean that you're entitled to be president. Just because your last name is Clinton doesn't mean you're entitled to that position. No matter what you've accomplished, there's still a process that you have to go through, whether you believe it happened or not. That's a political conversation. There's still a process you have to go through to be named the leader. You're not entitled. So patriarchal systems, kings, queens, deity-based systems like the Roman Empire, Egypt, that was an entitled system. where because you are that person, you are entitled to be the leader, regardless of your credentialing, regardless of what everyone else thinks. You are in that position just because you are who you are. That's not our system. Royal blood, yeah. So when we talk about path of least resistance, there are people, like we talk about personalities. There are people who naturally gravitate towards a leadership position. There are people who naturally gravitate towards a doer or a worker bee position. And there are people who naturally just gravitate towards the back. And, when it really, 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 really matters, they'll stick their hand up and say, yeah, but. Or, guys, if you're done fumbling around, here's the answer. I love those people. Watch everyone else lose fingers and poke eyes out and lose, pints of blood. And then at the end they go, if you just asked me at the beginning, I probably would have told you all you had to do is flick that switch. And everyone's like, oh, crap, why didn't we see that? I always tell this, I'm the guy at the front. I've always been the guy. If I see a problem, I've got to put my hand on it. So I'm not fearless, but I am not fearful either. And you can. So there are personalities that will kind of, you have a dominant, right, personality, and then you kind of go either side, Cody. And it really is situational. It depends on even who is around you. So it's not even just a situation, but it depends on who's in the room. So for me, there are people, when I know I'm around them, I need to be more of an active participant because I know who they are. I know that they're not a strong personality and they're not going to assume a leadership role, right? Or that they don't have a particular skill set for the given situation. So I'm going to step up. I'm going to say, you know what? In this situation, I'm going to open my mouth first. Or I'm going to put my hand in the ring to do the thing first. And then there are other situations where, and I don't know why, but Senator Mike Shirkey, a friend of Rise Above's, pardon me, brilliant guy. I mean, great guy. When I'm in the room with him, I just shut up. I close my mouth and I listen. Why? Because I'm about to learn something. Like, he's just good. And, if there's a problem to be solved, I'm waiting to see what he's going to do first because, again, I know I'm outmatched. And I'm okay with that. I'm confident, right? I'm aware of my thoughts. I'm not going to overthink it. Again, get to the how do we overcome our fears. I'm realistic to say, this guy is definitely smarter than me, so I'm going to listen to him. And so I'm not going to be fearful. I don't have to show him anything. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell him straight up, I'm watching you. I'm going to learn from you. That's the same idea of public speaking is there situations where someone's going to pipe up in the audience and go, you know what, you just taught me something. Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm going to look that up. I can't tell you how many times I've said something like that in a presentation. Can I also say that a great way to overcome fear is to work out? Go figure. Risk Amer says to go work out. It's to go and lift weights, to go and for a run, to be in shape. Because working out gives you self-confidence. It gives you the ability to look and feel the way that you enjoy. You kind of build this image of yourself. It puts you where you want to be. Now, certain personalities can go overboard. I agree. But generally, I'm speaking, working out is very beneficial to those people who want to overcome fear. I don't have permission to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways because I think it's very relevant. My wife said this weekend, this is the first summer in a long time that she has felt great wearing summer clothes. And for good reason. She looks amazing. But we've also been working out a ton. We've been in the gym a lot the past couple of years. And she did. I hate the fact that we're putting our summer clothes away because she looks amazing. And I think in these situations that's a prime example of someone who, typically has not an unhealthy fear, but a kind of a thought that I'm not attractive, so therefore I'm afraid of going out in certain clothing. When the reality is she looks amazing, she always has. Negative body image, yeah. But because she's worked out, even though she still looks great, she has changed her thought process because she's working out. So not only does it make you more confident in your physical appearance, but I'm telling you, working out also makes you more confident in your mental. The fact that your cognitive ability goes up because you're no longer focused on this, right? Your negative time, all that energy isn't consumed in worrying about how you look. And so it helps you to concentrate on what you think. Helps you to understand that you are good enough. Because really what it comes down to, Cody, is this idea is that we don't think we're good enough. I'm not good enough to walk in that dark room and stop whatever the beast is that's in there. I think it was you, Cody, that said it earlier, the zombies. You had an unhealthy fear of zombies or zombie apocalypse. But you are good enough. That's the thing. You're good enough and you're smart enough to understand that A, the reality's not there. And B, you're smart enough, cookie. You'd figure it out. As you said, you're a hard-working person. It's not that you're lazy. You're working 7 days a week for crying out loud. No, the zombies are going to miss you anyways. You're going to be at work. They're going to come to your house and be like, oh, she's not here. We're going. But, I mean, you touched on something else that I want to kind of chat about briefly. It's this idea of there are women fears and there are men fears. Men typically fear because it demonstrates a lack of control. So again, it's personality driven, but so I'm speaking in general terms. Don't think I'm speaking of everybody. But when men traditionally don't like to be vulnerable, they don't like to show emotion, don't cry in front of your kids type of thing. And obviously that's not a healthy thing. But with the advent of the interwebs, it's become harder and harder for men to even express basic emotions now. So when you talk about fear, when you've got a guy that never comes out of his house, yeah, man up. That was the phrase when I was a kid. Come on, man up. Yeah. It's huge, and you rarely hear that anymore. Even on, my kids play a lot of sports, and I'm still that age where I'm like, walk it off, kid. Get up. Suck it up. And it's not that I'm afraid of him looking like a wuss or something like that. It's it's a mental toughness. It's a willingness to not give up, to not give into the fear of I'm broken or I'm, if it was a real injury, trust me, I'd be the first one on the field. But when someone's really hurt, the face changes entirely. Trust me. If you've ever seen somebody that has a major injury, their face looks very different than when they just stubbed their toe. Okay. Wow, Soggy. 9 freaking months. Where's the baby? Oh, he's looking at me so cute. Welcome to the conversation, Mr. Soggy Waffles. You, sir, are a decent feller. I don't know if you guys know each other, Corey and Cody. Jokes. I know you do. Welcome back, Mr. Soggy Waffles. It has been 9 freaking months. What are you afraid of, Soggy? Besides me whooping you in an arm wrestling competition. Because you know that's going to happen. Actually, the truth is you'd beat me because I don't arm wrestle. What is the name? What do you mean? What name? Whose name? What you talking about, Willis? Oh, there's a movie or a TV series. I'm afraid. That's funny. The Twitch baby. 9 months. That's crazy. You got one of those fancy little firsts beside your name and everything? That's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, fear is can be debilitating, and I think what's interesting is when you look at a lot of the streamers on Twitch, a lot of these guys are people who normally would not be upfront public presentation type people. It's incredible to me how many of these guys came out of that whole I'm afraid to get in front of people thing. And now they're going to TwitchCon in front of hundreds of people, watching Chaco signing foreheads. Now, Chaco is not afraid of public speaking. He used to teach and things of that nature, so he gets it. But I don't know. I'd love to ask him the question if he would ever do or had done before Twitch huge public speaking events. Because he's winning events with Shroud and J9 and all those guys. He's done some pretty big things. And he seems like a pretty cool cat in front of, when you got, 8,000 or 9,000 people watching you. Playing the video games. You hate public speaking? What do you hate about public speaking, Soggy? What is it about public speaking where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do it? Because hate's that's a never type language. I have a presentation today in an hour and a half. Now, when you say you hate the fact that other people have their eyes on you, is it just the fact that you think they're judging you, or is it something to do with another part? What's up, Self? Welcome to the stream, dude. What is it about the public speaking that you hate? For me, public speaking before, it was the questions. I was afraid of the questions that might pop up. It doesn't work. That's why. You can't imagine people in their underwear. How's that even a thing? How are you even going to focus on your subject? If all I'm doing is looking at people in the audience, that's just weird. Cody, you say you hate a lot of things? Self, what are you afraid of, man? I'm trying to think what else what else do I have a fear of? I don't know that I have yeah, I get that. Riding a bike was your fear today? Why was riding a bike a fear for you today? Yeah, so image, Soggy, with the whole idea of if I say something inappropriate. And Cody and I were just talking about that a few minutes ago, this idea of people are very forgiving when you... Never happen, Soggy Waffles. Never happen. feeling sticky? What? So you couldn't clean a pumpkin with your bare hand. Get in there and just dig her right out. And I'm with you on the whole ricotta cheese. I could not do ricotta cheese. Blech. People ruin great lasagnas by throwing that crap in there. What are they thinking? Cold chat. Oh, don't even get me started on my military stories. Like, how do you even define stickiness? Is that like, so if you got like, I don't know, Elmer's glue on your hand? I hate putting gas in my car too. Not because I hate pumping gas, because I hate paying for it. You work in a dessert shop. Oh, so hey, this stickiness, it's sticking, your feet sticking to the floor. So are you like a fastidious mopper where you mop the floor like crazy? Moving your arms. I laugh because I'm picturing myself do it. I can, that whole, because I when I work out, I wear tank tops a lot because it's hot in that stinking gym, especially this time of year. They turn the heat on so early in that gym. Oh, you wear chocolate gets in your crock holes. If there was no context to that conversation, Cody Cat, and you just threw that out there, the whole idea of getting chocolate in your crock holes, I don't think anybody would understand. I think it would just be people would think a lot of bad things. Just going to say that now. Yeah, humidity would drive me nuts. Mandarin oranges in your crock holes. Yeah, the absolute humidity, like some of those southern states where it's like 100% humidity sometimes. Oh my gosh. I couldn't do it. But I mean, Michigan, it's just one big long cold shower. We're at church this Sunday, go figure. And our pastor was doing a sermon series on rhythms and how there are rhythms to everything that we do, seasons and all that kind of stuff. And he says, there are 4 seasons. You have winter, spring, fall, summer. But unless you live in Michigan, then you have winter, spring, fall, summer. It's just this idea of there's no time to enjoy. Yeah, heartbreak is big though, Cody. We can't ever escape heartbreak. Yeah, soft cold showers, man. I'm telling you, military is unrelenting. Well, I shouldn't say rarely. You often got hot showers. But particularly when you're in the field, you ain't getting no hot shower. You're getting a bowl of hot water, which you can do with as you see fit, but it might be 4 or 5 cups, and you're using it really for your face. The rest of your body is getting cold. Cold water, faux show. I've never been to California. Oh, there you go, Soggy. The purist just ripped the heart out. So, I mean, really what the whole context of today is there are 2 types of fears. There's the irrational fear. There's being afraid of something. And then there's the being fearful. And fearful is something we should all have. Fearful in context of humanity and our ancestors. The fearful things are what made us better. They made us stronger. They helped us to survive. We knew that the lion lived in that cave, so we didn't go in that cave. We knew that, when it got dark, we didn't stray far from the light because the hungry things would tend to walk away with our children. You know what I mean? We knew that we couldn't eat that flour because that flour killed you or made you vomit malicious, like just viciously. You learned all that. You knew not to live too close to that side of the volcano because when the volcano bubbled, the lava came down that side. But now that we've moved to the common era, and technology is prevalent, and we can hurt each other in more cranial ways, i.e., emotionally, in different social ways. I'm not just punching you anymore to hurt you. I'm assaulting you through technology, right? It's changed our fear patterns. We're no longer just fearful of walking into a dark room because something can bite us. Now we have to wrestle with the whole exacerbation of our emotional fears that turn into physical fears. Debilitating. Where I can't leave my house. It's come up several times in the stream already where people are talking about this emotional fear that we have about what people think of us. That was never a thing. That was never a thing. It's only become a thing, like a really big thing, probably the past 100 years or so, when communication skyrocketed. Sagi, you've already done a face cam review. What do you even ask that question for? You've posted pictures, bro. Everyone knows what you look like. Ain't no reveal. Just stick that bad boy on there so we can laugh with you. Yeah, absolutely do a face review. I mean, as long as it doesn't crash like bogged, your computer's got to be ready for it. That's all. Your interwebs have to be strong enough to handle it. Yeah, totally do it. Everybody's seen you with the pickle and the taco man. Yeah, I totally want to laugh at you. Not going to lie. To me, 99% of watching somebody on stream is their facial expression. I want to, because you have to guess what somebody is doing on the other side of the microphone if you can't see their face. No, I want to laugh at him, Cody. You can laugh with him all you want, Cody. I'm laughing at him. For sure. You understand what I'm saying? So when you watch the OG Pickle or any of those guys, yeah, you can, if you close your eyes, you can hear his excitement. You can, for me, I want to see your passion. I want to see you as you're laughing at your the other guys that are playing with you, or laughing at your chat, or there's something to be said when you talk about language that is just it's one step further. It's amazing. People, yeah, they have amazing reactions to stuff. And I think that's part of it, you know? Because if I took away the face cam and I just talked, because I'm not really expressive in my voice, at least on chat, I don't think I'm expressive in my voice. People say I'm passionate when I give presentations, but I don't know. What is my schedule for tonight there, Mr. Soggy Waffles? Let's have a look. See if I can be around for your big face cam reveal. I should be there. What time are you going to stream tonight there, Broheem? Yeah, and I think the same. I don't think it would be the same without... people say all the time, why don't you just do a podcast? Because all you're doing is talking. I don't know. I think it's different. I don't think it's the same thing. You don't see the muscles. Well, you need to wait a little bit longer because I'm still working on them. We're getting there, though, day by day. Day by day. I'm looking at the interwebs now to see what's out there. 6 p.m. Perfect. So 6 p.m. Pacific, that would be what, 8 o'clock my time? You're going to look like Donkey Kong. What? What am I doing here? My biceps keep getting bigger. It's getting smaller. That's too funny. My wife's curling almost as much as me. You believe that nonsense? I was at the gym the other day watching her work out, and she was like just rocking the dumbbells. I was like, what in the world is this woman? She's kicking my butt. Gonna look like Donkey Kong. That's funny. There's a mental picture for you. There's an irrational fear. So, different question for you. Holy crap, you lost 40 pounds in a month and a half? Congratulations. Were you intending to do that? Or did it just happen? UPS is brutal. That's crazy. Yeah, my dad, you ever heard of Loomis or what's it called? DHL. My God, my dad's company. I don't even know the name of it. You ever heard of DHL, the yellow company that's out there doing deliveries? They do a lot of international stuff usually, I think. Mostly. That's what my dad owns a division of that in Canada. So I know that industry pretty well, actually. And I've always been in distribution and transportation. Cabs. Yeah, no problem. Triggered. DHL. Let's look it up. Bam. Images. Duo screen. DHL. This is DHL. This is what I'm talking about. Never seen these guys before? My dad runs a division of this in Canada. Canada. Yeah, this is, it's actually a company out of Germany. It used to be called Loomis back in the day. Oh, you load I got you. I thought you were driving or something. Yeah. So are you... They never let me drive. Really? My UPS guy that delivers here every day, not only is he covered in tattoos, but he also used to be in the youth home next door. We come in, we talk. He talks about it with us all the time. He's actually asked to come on stream to talk to you guys about it and come in to talk to our students. So that's a thing. Who cares about the tattoos? Tattoos are nothing. It says nothing about who you are as a person, except for the fact that you're artsy fartsy. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess it would be hot. So if you want me to be frank on today's topic, I have one big fear, and it's double-sided. I'm afraid to resemble people from your family. It's because I don't want to live the bad things that happened, the ones I like. I don't want to, the ones I don't deserve. Gotcha. So when you say look like, are you saying like physically look like self, or are you talking look like in the sense of how they acted or how they act today? Because I found it ironic in my family. My parents acted very poorly when I was a youngin', just a wee lad. And I found it funny that my parents were always, welcome back, Kath Cal. Welcome back. I found it ironic that my parents would always say to me, oh, you're not going to do that thing and ruin my good name. I'm like, you should know probably that what you did last week probably already ruined your good name. Just going to throw that out there. So, yeah, so if that's a legit thing. You know, and getting back to what Cody said before, you know, always wanting to impress people and not wanting to disappoint. That was one of the things where even today, you know, I almost desire, because I've worked my tail off, you know, and I've actually kind of surprised myself at times about what my wife Veronica and I have been able to accomplish at times. And I always kind of step back and wait for my family to say, wow, good job. You know, and I agree with Cody that one of my big fears is the fact that I'm afraid my family's never going to step back and go, wow, good job. Because I want to know. I mean, I think most of us want to know that we've done well. Not that we've necessarily performed, but that what we've done has an approval rating. Validation. Yeah, that's a great way of saying it, Cody. Because, I mean, remember, I grew up... Thanks, Sagi. You're a decent dude. I grew up in a world where everybody always said I was never good enough. That there was always something wrong. That, you know, I was the bad kid. That's what everyone always said. Yeah, totally. You know, and I think that's why, again, this is one of the things that I think Twitch does for people, chat-wise, is it validates us. For a great example, gifting a sub. Why do you think almost 100% of people who gift subs, myself included, never hit gift anonymously? Because that's an option. You can gift somebody a sub anonymously. But nobody does it. Why? Because we all crave it. As Catholic, perfect. We crave it. We want someone to say, wow, thank you, that's awesome. I'm so glad you gifted me, blah, blah, blah. Why do you think when it's our anniversary, we throw it in chat? Because we want to be recognized. We want someone to say, wow, that's awesome. So thankful for you. And we are. But all of you guys who stream, when somebody subs, you're legitimately thankful. But as the sub giver, someone who is subbing to a channel, gifting subs to usernames with the word fart in it. Oh, I got to start doing that. Oh, that's the best. Cody, are you actually doing that? That's hilarious. Oh, man, that is the best. Okay, I got to find a word, and I'm going to go with it. I'm going to totally gift people just random subs with specific words attached to them. Yeah, I'll get one. You wait. I gotta get one that's just gonna be Morgme. Hello. How are you? Welcome to the stream. We're talking about pretty cool subjects. Well, Cody is. He's talking about how to gift subs to people with fart in their name. So I gotta change the stream topic to fart. My poor wife. She would, if she's watching the stream right now, she's screaming at her computer. I'm just letting you know. So.
Okay. Everything is awesome.
Oh, here we go. There we go. Yeah. Fart box. Welcome to the gym. Please don't skip leg day. And I think with a name like Fart Box, I'm going to recommend, sir, that you refrain from as much protein as possible before leg day, because there's just a lot of, pushing on leg day, and I'm just afraid. I'm afraid for what might happen. Please. Thank you. Thank you to the anonymous gifter who gifted Fartbox a tier 1 sub. Mr. Anonymous, Mrs. Anonymous, thank you. Okay, so moist. Cody. Yeah, so what was I saying? I don't remember. Farts. Family. My wife would be punching the screen right now if she knew this conversation was happening. So if you see a computer screen come flying over my head, just know that my wife, not a fan of the farts. What conversation? Great time to come back. Just give her. Let her know. We're talking about the farts. As my kids say, the old bum burps. Them are the best ones. Bum burps. Yep, that's what we're talking about. Because, streaming, it's a serious topic. Why talk about fear or, what it means to be good to people and stuff when you can just throw farts in? Farts make everything better. Oh, brother. So let's talk about Dutch ovens for a second, because my wife is Dutch. So you'd think, Soggy, that my wife would be appreciative of such things. Because, I want to honor her heritage. I want to say, honey, I love you so much that I want to keep you close to your people. I want to not have you stray far from home. And so you'd think that pinning the covers over her head would be, something she would just thank me for, and say, honey, I love you so much. But no, Soggy, she does not appreciate my cultural appropriation of the bum burps in our bedroom. She gets quite offended. I'm not going to lie. So now I feel so bad for Soph, because now Soph is being all serious and we're talking about farts. So if my uncle and aunt rejected my mother after my grandpa's death, inheritance fights. Yeah, that's the worst, guy. And Cathcal, I don't know that I've hit bedrock. I don't know that I'm going any deeper. That was years ago. I just, I pray. I do a lot of praying. Therapy. It helps. It gets me through the moments. Restraining orders are good too. So if that is probably one of the hardest things, when you talk about family, because I grew up in a super dysfunctional family where we used, destructive family relationships as kind of an excuse for every bad decision we ever made. Well, I am the way I am because, my dad's an alcoholic, or my mom was abusive, or it almost becomes an excuse to be mean. And for me, Soph, it was really hard to kind of recover my family. And so let me explain. When I say recover my family, what I'm talking about is two things. One, to plant a family name down and say, I'm okay with being a Fernandez, regardless of all the junk that goes along with it. And also being okay with being recognized as a Fernandez. Because Soph, and you strike me as a person that can do this. I've moved past it. I know I'm not my father. I may look like him. I may share a name. But I am not my dad. I am not the sins of his past. You know? I'm not the sins of his today even. So I think that for a lot of people, they get stuck on this thing of, I can't be me because my dad is who he is, or my mom is who she is, or whatever the case is. I know that you talk about your aunts and your uncles. I mean, but there's a reality there that, you when you start forging your own path, there's a confidence that comes from that. And I've overcome all of my family's devils. So, And so if I would take Soggy up on that, by the way, Soggy's a great guy to talk to. Super, super, super good guy. But yeah, that's one of the cool things about this environment, right? Is yeah, we can play video games and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Twitch. DM the dude. It's a weird mechanism. Twitch chat, when you get in a situation where you need help. This is both a good and a bad thing, as far as I'm concerned. It's good in the sense that you get immediate gratification. You have immediately some access to somebody who can talk you through or listen to you as you talk through stuff. But we still lack the fundamental element that we all desire. And that is contact. Most of us want touch. We want an arm around us. We want our hand held. We want someone to pat our back. Yes, Soggy, it very much is. And it's not even that it's the toxic part, because toxic you can just delete, right? Or you can back out, unless you're someone who just digs deeper into that stuff. But I mean, it also leaves a fundamental element out, which is that physical support that we need from each other. To be able to go for a walk. So, anywho, bring it. More of me gonna kick your butt. So, what are you saying about G Fuel? It's fire. Oh, just grapefruit. Never use it. BRB. See you in a bit. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think that this is a good start. But you need supportive people that are in your face. This is like a maintenance tool almost, right? Where I can dial a doctor, chat with someone for a second. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Got to tune up. What?
Okay.
What?
Everything's great. Everything is
What's going on? Mr. Soggy Waffles gifting a tier 1 sub to Morgme. Welcome back, Morgme. I know that you were a sub before. Wonder what happened.
okay.
Soggy, stop it.
Everything's great.
So I will. Super nice guy. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for doing that. Morgme, you will not. Thank you very much, Soggy, for doing that. Cathcal, welcome back. You also are one of the first subs to Rise Above, a.k.a. Risk Immersed. Thank you very much. I just want to, again, remind you guys that every penny of every bit of that goes to this fine establishment called Rise Above and helps our kiddos. So, for anyone that does not watch Soggy Waffles or Poggy Waffles, gosh, change the name, guy. Just can't do it. Pog, have we officially said that we're doing a face cam reveal tonight? Is this official? So it's 6 p.m. Pacific time on the Soggy Waffle channel. Are we doing a face cam reveal, buddy? Let's get this out there. Let's get some peoples to the watchings of the face cam reveals. Please, anybody? Please. Let's do it. 9 p.m. Eastern time. All right, there you go. Soggy Waffles, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. or so Eastern time. We'll be doing a face cam reveal. Please, I would encourage all the peeps who love the Soggy Waffles, a.k.a. Corey, to go say hi and say, hey, nice job, and then gift a sub to Fartbox on his channel, because Fartbox needs subs to all the channels. Yay, Fartbox. Anyways, you guys are clowns. Hashtag gift subs to Fartbox. Thank you, guys. It has been 2 hours. The stream is kaput skis. We're up skis. It's time for me to get back to work. I got it ready for my presentation in about an hour or so. Go talk about the Rise Aboves. And what do we want to do? Let's send y'all over to Air Max and go from there. I just want to say... Self, you and I probably should be talking. Let's carry this conversation forward. Right? Yeah, I mean, if fear has it messes with us, man. It gets us to do things that otherwise wouldn't be able to do. The fear of, for me, one of the reasons why I get back in the gym is this fear of getting old. So that's why I went back in the gym. Yeah, exactly. So let's chat, buddy. Like I said, I've got a scoot for now, but let's over the next couple of days, let's have this conversation. And like I said, I would pull on Soggy Waffles, and his offer to chat as well. He's a good guy, and has always been a phenomenal ear for me to chat with. So. You got a friend in Soggy Waffles. So, okay, guys, I gotta go. For those of you who are of the praying sort, please be praying for my presentation I got here in about an hour. I'm going to talk to a whole bunch of good people that hopefully are going to love on Rise Above a little bit. And thankful for all of you. Thanks for those who subbed. Thanks for the gifted sub, Soggy Waffles. Welcome back, Cody and Jimode and all those folks. You guys are amazing, and I'm thankful for all you. Fartbox, welcome to the crew, buddy. Don't forget leg day on Thursday. And please, no protein before leg day. And Nappy, for the bits, you, sir, are amazing. Y'all have a blessed day. We'll be seeing you later.